Okay, well, hello and welcome. My name is Taylor Riley, and I am here today with my dear friend and client, Arnie, who is been, really kind enough to, volunteer to share a little bit about his health journey today with us and in hopes to inspire you. So, Arnie, thank you so much for being here.
It's a pleasure and an honor, Taylor, always to be with you.
Oh, you're so kind. So, I think let's start at the beginning. I know we've been working together for a while and you've had so many wonderful wins over the last several months together. But what I would love is if you could maybe share with everybody who's tuning in at home, what brought you to this place of us working together? What brought you to this place of, finally really wanting to prioritize your health? Could you explain a little bit about where you were in the beginning, please?
Sure. I've been overweight for decades. And over the course of that time, I've tried just about every possible diet that's out there. I've done the Weight Watchers a couple times. I've done Atkins. I've done South Beach. At one point in my life, I went vegetarian for 6 months because I said, hey, who knows any fat vegetarians? They're not out there. And in 6 months of being a vegetarian, I gained 15 pounds because all the desserts that I love are all vegetarian. And, you can play the game. And ultimately what wound up happening is my health suffered. And I was getting close to diabetes. I've never been actually diagnosed with diabetes, but I've gotten close. And I don't want to cross over that 6.5 threshold on the A1C measurement. And also last spring, I hit close to my all-time high weight. It was not comfortable. I wasn't feeling good in my own body. My clothes weren't fitting. I got like 3 sizes of clothes in my closet from all the yo-yo dieting up and down, but even the fat cell clothes weren't fitting so well. And I saw my doctor and things were not looking great. She did a whole workup on me and turned out my liver enzymes were out of whack.
Wow.
And the liver is a pretty forgiving organ as things go, but you have to help it. And the key thing that my doctor said is as you lose weight, your liver enzymes will return back to normal. But if you don't lose the weight, you're on a path to getting a non-alcoholic cirrhosis.
Fatty liver disease. Yep.
Which is at this point the biggest cause for liver transplants in the United States. We always used to think that liver transplants were just because of alcoholism and people not being able to control their drinking, and it got to a point where they would have cirrhosis of the liver. Well, yeah, that happens, of course, but the larger problem with cirrhosis today is people just being plain overweight and having fatty liver that translates over time into a cirrhotic state. And I did not want to go that route. I felt like I was up against a wall and nothing I had tried worked for me. And I needed something where I could be assured that I was working with a coach whose program would work specifically for me. And you and I knew each other, we talked, and I came on board, and I have been absolutely thrilled because your program has worked for me.
Well, and I'm so glad to hear that. And thank you so much for sharing, because as much as it is about us working together, it's really about what brought you to a place of making commitment to yourself that you were going to make it work, that you were going to prioritize it. Because what I'm hearing is when you said, you're overweight for decades. You had
Mhm.
tried other diets. You
Mhm.
would lose weight, you would gain it back. Um,
Mhm.
it went beyond, like you said, feeling uncomfortable in your body, but you were starting to see, like you said, elevated A1C. Um,
Mhm.
you were starting to see, those liver enzyme tests coming back in a very scary place.
Mhm.
Talk to me a little bit more about what was going on in your head at this point. You had been struggling with your weight for so long. You kept trying things that didn't seem to work for you. Your health was continuing to get, more and more red flags that you were
Mhm.
continuing to get further, further away from the goal. What was that conversation in your head about, starting the next path?
Well, it was a question of do or die, really. It was like, I'm going to give this one last shot. And if this doesn't work, I throw up my hands.
Yeah. Wow.
It was a question of being in a place of psychological desperation.
Wow.
And you came to my rescue.
And I'm
And
so thankful for you to be vulnerable to share that, because I think so many people that I talk to all the times and so many clients that I've worked with over the years, we can talk about the physical, about the weight, about,
Mhm.
talk about the data that we read with the test results, but
Right.
so many few people are able to sit back and take a look at how they've normalized, like you said, that psychological discomfort
Right.
of how many more days do I want to not like how I look in the mirror? How many more days do I want to not feel as confident as I can
Right.
be at work? How were you noticing not just the physical, but this emotional component affecting you, at home with your family, maybe, within your career? Were you starting to see it be more prevalent?
Well, it was at the point where I went to Baltimore to visit my son and his family and play with my grandkids. And we took a walk to their elementary school, and there's a slight incline. I'd hardly even call it a hill in back of their school. And the kids were running up there, and they wanted me to run with them, and I barely got to the top of it, and I had to sit down and lie down on the grass, and I couldn't have even a normal active life to play with my grandkids outdoors in a field.
And
And
what was going through your head at that moment?
well, am I going to be around? I mean, my grandkids are small and young still. Uh, am I going to be around to see them grow up? Am I going to be a part of their lives? What are they going to remember about me? What's the image that they're going to have in their mind of their grandpa?
Yeah.
And is it going to be a fat old guy who died, before he had a chance to really develop a significant, adult kind of relationship with them? Or, would I just recede into the past, and they'd go on with their lives, and I wouldn't be around as a memory even.
Wow.
So I determined I needed to do something. Now, let's talk about results. The results are that after just a few months working with you, we did some tests, and my liver enzymes came back into a normal range. The edema, or the swelling that I had in my legs and ankles, returned to normal, and I was able to walk around. And I was all of a sudden I was 20 pounds lighter, and then I was 30 pounds lighter, and now I'm like 45 pounds lighter than I was when you and I began. And that's in what, 5-6 months.
Yeah.
And I've gone down 2 pant sizes. I went to the shoe repair place and took my favorite belt in and had them put in 3 more holes. And
How-
now I'm on the 3rd hole.
That's great.
At one point I'm going to have to just replace that old belt and get a new one that's a lot shorter. Well, I can deal with that a lot
Yeah,
easier than
that's a good problem to have.
I can do that. That's a first world problem. That's a problem of okay, I can forgo that favorite old big belt and find a new favorite smaller belt.
And I love that. And I love that you've seen tremendous, you set a goal, we set a goal together, right? You said 40 pounds, we got there. And I know you were hesitant because oftentimes, right, we know what we need to do. We need to shift how we're fueling our bodies. We need to shift about how we think about what's possible.
Right.
And we need to get into action.
Right.
And that is oftentimes what I find people struggle with most, because, you know, somebody like yourself, like so many others, they've gone into action before, and maybe they have seen some results, right? Maybe like you mentioned, Weight Watchers, Atkins, things like that. Maybe, you know, you have lost a little bit of weight, but it comes back plus some. Or, you know, some people, they feel like they try, they stick to it, they're tallying the numbers, they're weighing the food, they're, you know, and then they get to a place like, is this going to be the rest of my life? Is eating, you know, a handful of broccoli and 4 ounces of grilled chicken with, you know, steamed brown rice on the side? And am I always going to have to tally my points for Weight Watchers? Am I always going to have to, you know, feel like I'm coming from this place of restriction and deprivation? So talk to me a little bit about, you know, what your experience has been as we've, you know, worked together to help you up level your lifestyle habits. Explain for the people at home about what that was like for you, please.
Well, I've found a lot of new foods that I've never eaten before. I have expanded my culinary abilities. You know, what people may not know about you, and I'll spill the beans right here. You're trained as a French chef. Part of your program, you teach me how to cook. I've got better knife skills now than I ever had.
And how did you find, you know, your first couple of weeks into wrapping your head around maybe some new philosophy and new scientific evidence about how to eat, or, you know, even a new skill set?
Right. Well, I think what was really important for me is that it wasn't a light switch where, okay, all of a sudden you can't eat any of these favorite foods that you've got. And we eased our way into it. And you put it in terms of crowding certain things off of your plate and making room for other things that are going to be better for you and give you a better result. And so it wasn't like all of a sudden I didn't eat my favorite beef dish or my favorite chicken dish or whatever. It was a question of, okay, I could still do that, but I would eat a little bit less of that, and I'd eat a little bit more of my rice, my whole grain brown rice, or something else.
And I love that you're bringing up carbs, because that's a big thing that we hear right from the doctors. And I know that's one of the things that you've heard in the past too. It's like, oh, you can't eat carbs ever, right? So
well, that's ridiculous. I eat a lot of carbs, and by the way, I've never once in your program had to weigh or measure anything.
Never counting calories, right?
I've never counted calories. I've never sat there and said, oh, I can only have a half a cup of this or 3 cups of that or whatever it would be. You know, other than your encouragement to drink a lot of water. But, you know, there's probably no max in terms of how much water a normal human being can drink in a day. But short of that, I've never said to myself, oh, I can't have seconds.
Yeah. And that, you know, once we had that initial learning period, right, that orientation phase, if you will, where we take a look and say, hey, this is what's going on in Arnie's body. These are his red flags. Let's take a look at the root cause of these red flags. In your case, you know, a little insulin resistance, there was inflammation, there was some other things that when we look under the hood, right? Instead of just saying, hey, we're going to focus on weight loss, we were focusing on what does Arnie's body need to help it heal and repair. Like we're talking about the liver. All the time I hear people like, oh, we got to do a detox diet. We need to do green juice. We need to do this. I need to take the pills, the supplements, the vitamins. Your liver, your body is perfectly capable, but if you give it the foods, if you give it the rest, if you give it the stress management that it needs, the support it needs to do its job better, then that's when you see everything come to fruition. So after that learning period, how did you find yourself adjusting to this new way of eating, this new way of thinking?
It became second nature and natural. And to be honest with you, looking at some of the foods that I'm not eating anymore, if I go buy them in the grocery store, they look kind of disgusting. and
Rewired your brain, your taste bud.
my brain and my taste buds are different. And it just happened naturally. It happened with ease. And the other thing that happened is that I'm just feeling a whole lot younger. You know, the pattern that I had, and I suspect that many people have, is that as you grow older, every year you gain a few pounds. And while your weight might go up and down over time, the general direction of the curve is that it's going upward. And now, as I've been taking this weight off, I've been feeling and looking younger. And I'm feeling now the way I felt back in the early 80s. So I just took off, 40 years.
There
I
you
didn't
go.
take off just 40 pounds. I took 40 years off.
With ease, right? So something that's sustainable by changing your lifestyle habits instead of focusing on a diet.
Right.
You're able to step into that. So with all of that said, with all of these wonderful milestones, dropping pant sizes, getting better test results, losing that weight, but I want to point out keeping it off with ease, like you said. Right. Feeling younger, what does that enable you to do? How are you able to show up differently at work, with your wife, with your family?
Well, I can go out for a longer walk. We have a swimming pool in our backyard. At one point during this past summer, it was so bad I could barely walk the circumference of the pool. And then I would have to sit down and I would feel tired. And that wasn't the retirement that I wanted for me or for my wife.
Yeah.
We have a small dog. I'd like to take the dog out for a walk. Well, now we do that. We're here in Florida for 3 months this winter. And it's great. I've been out walking. I've been closing the circles on my iWatch every day. And it's great. It's like I can sit there and no, am I going to be in the Olympics this year? No, I'm not, and never would be. But for me, in the context of my life, I'm in better shape than I've been in probably 40 years. Yeah. I'm feeling younger. I'm feeling more vitality. I'm feeling like I want to get up and go. I've got more energy than I had before. I've got more ambition to do things than I had before. And that's great, and it's helped me feel better and more confident working with my own clients. And, I have a coaching practice, but it's an entirely different field than yours. And I feel better showing up for my clients. I feel like I've got more of myself to give to them.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So with all of that said, with how you feel now, what would you like to share maybe with somebody who's at home, who's feeling like you were, before, somebody who's feeling like I've tried everything. Maybe this is just my body now. Like you were saying, maybe this is just what aging is. Maybe this is just my destiny right now at this point in my life. Just feeling hopeless, like you've tried things before and it's not worked for you. Mm-hmm. Maybe they just don't want to invest their time, their money, their energy into something new because they feel like they've tried so many different types of plans and they haven't seen success. What would you say to somebody to inspire them?
Well, I would say a couple things. Number one, figure out what you want for your own life. Do you want to deal with a chronic and painful disease, whether it's diabetes or liver problems or kidney problems or whatever it might be? Do you want to be that person that's sitting there on dialysis and having to have everybody care for you and go through your savings and not have a happy life and a happy retirement?
Yeah.
If you don't want that, then figure out who's responsible for making the choices to do what you know you need to do to lead your life at your highest and best value. And that's ultimately you.
Yeah.
Your spouse, you certainly love and you want to support and you want to be around for that person. You want to be around for your kids and your grandkids and your friends and your neighbors. You
Yeah.
want to be a part of your community. But whose job is that? It's ultimately your job to stand up for yourself and to say, this is what I need.
Beautiful advice to share. You are in control of your own destiny, and empower yourself with that belief that if you've gotten yourself into this place, then you can get yourself out. And I think that's wonderful. Wonderful advice to share. Is there anything else that you would like to say to anybody watching at home who might believe that this is not possible for them, that the kind of success that you've seen is just out of their grasp?
Well, I think it's a question of partnership.
Mm.
And a question of feeling that you're not, while you have the responsibility to yourself to make a change, you also have the ability to have a partner in making that change. And you've been that partner for me.
Oh, and it's
And
been
you've been accessible. Can I use this? Can I use that? Well, what about this? What about that? What about looking at labels? What does this mean? What does that mean? You've been there, and you've been a constant presence, and any question I've had, I've been able to throw at you, and you immediately say, well, yes, let's look at this label, or, well, here's the nutritional background behind this. This is why such and such is good for you, or such and such is less good for you, or such and such is something you really ought to avoid. But that support in our weekly calls a couple times a week has been invaluable. You've been there to answer questions. You've been there to share photographs. You've been there to share ideas and help with the mindset and all of that. It's a partnership, and you fully engage. You fully care about the people that you're working with, and you engage us in such a way that we want to show up.
Yeah.
And our success is a shared success.
Absolutely. And I love that. It definitely is a shared success. And that, I think, is also so important. And I'm so thankful for you to bring it up, because once we've decided that we are going to take charge, that we are going to change, right, the trajectory of our story, and once we've decided what we will no longer settle for, right, and decide what it is we want. In your case, like you said, you're no longer going to settle for feeling uncomfortable in your body, for watching your health deteriorate, for not being able to play with your grandkids, show up with your wife, and even walk your dog. And then you decided what you did want, right? You wanted longevity, you wanted good health, you wanted to feel young, you wanted to feel vibrant. Well, that's great, but you've had, like you said, 40 years of eating patterns, 50 years of eating patterns and lifestyle patterns that brought you where you are now. Of course, you're going to need some guidance for how to change that habit. And that's where support and collaboration comes from, for sure. But we need, I think, all of us, community, because the hardest part is taking that first step. It's learning something new. The same way, when I'm teaching my 5-year-old daughter how to ride her bike, she really wants to, but if she kept falling off by herself the first few times, and you don't have anybody to show you the support or to help pick you up, right? Because it's not even just, Arnie, about, recipes or which foods. It's about changing the mindset. Like we talk a lot about, stress patterns, for example, and we're stressed. So many of us reach for cookies. Well, you need help to take a look at that, because when you're inside of the jar, you can't read the label from the outside. And that's where support and community comes in. So that's, that's a really great point to make too.
So there's one last thing I'd like to say, or one other thing I'd like to say, and that is, you have to show up to be successful with this program or any real program. You've got to show up with your own sense of being decisive. You don't want to go any longer than you have gone without a viable solution that will work for you, and without a wonderful coach who's going to be there with you and guide you and support you along the way. You've got to be decisive. If you're not decisive, it's not going to work. You've got to be resourceful along the way. I mean, it isn't always just a clear path. It isn't always just easy.
So true.
There are times where you're going to want to go back, and boy, that pirate's booty, or those cheese doodles, or those half gallons of ice cream, they all beckon. And, it would be easy to backslide. And we all have whatever our individual downfalls are, or our own obstacles along the way. So we all have to show a degree of resourcefulness to figure out, well, is this the best way to surmount this particular issue, or is there a better way? And then you have to show up coachable.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to empty your cup of the things that are going to be self-defeating, and be open to the coaching and the expertise and the mindset and all that you bring to the table, Taylor. And if you show up with those traits of being, decisive and committed and resourceful and coachable, you're going to wind up successful.
Yeah.
But if you're not, then forget it. Go on dialysis, whatever.
Yeah. And you've certainly been all of those things. And I love that. And that's so wonderful to share, because really, again, it points back to you as an individual and what you want and how you want to show up in the world. If you want to continue to be a victim of your health and be in reactionary mode, or if you're ready, like you said, to show up in a new way, to take charge, and decide for yourself what you want, to ask for the help, what you need, and create a path to get there. So it's such wonderful advice. And thank you for sharing your story. And I wish you continued success. And I'm excited as our relationship continues to see, what new goals you set and what new goals that you hit, and how you continue to feel happier and healthier and more vibrant every day. But thank you so much for being here today, Arnie.
I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be a client of yours. And I hope these words are helpful to others.
Okay.